My name is Zalfa Businge. I come from Uganda. I work with Kiryandongo District Local Government as Environment Officer. My main responsibility is to sensitize the public about environment conservation laws, policies, and also monitor and report activities concerning natural resources, then also to guide the restoration of degraded areas. I have liked Iceland ever since I arrived here and started the United Nations Land Restoration Training Program. The program has been having engagements of practicals, field excursions, which I really treasure, that made me understand the concepts of natural resources and land degradation more than ever before. In my view, I developed a project idea that concerns degradation, and the idea was about drivers of wetland degradation in Uganda, in Western Uganda and Iceland. Uganda is one of the countries that is blessed with the wetlands. These wetlands support about 80% of the communities, and they get food in form of vegetables and fish from the wetlands. They also get clean water. The wetlands are also a source of construction materials and craft materials. They also provide other services like tourism and carbon retention. For this study, I discovered that both in Uganda and Iceland there was a lot of wetland disturbance and degradation. Uganda lost wetlands area coverage from 13 to 10% in between 1994 and 2008, and also wetlands in Iceland were disturbed in the 20th century to the extent of about 47%. So this study mainly looked at how policies and legal framework address the drivers of wetland degradation. The study discovered that the drivers of wetland degradation in both countries were related. The main driver for wetland degradation was draining of wetlands. This leaves a lot of water reduced or lost, and then also it leaves behind ditches that are filled like ponds. In Uganda, where the temperatures are higher, this becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes, which are parasites causing malaria among human beings. And then in Iceland, the major problem has been about releasing of a lot of carbon that leads to climate change. The other drivers have been over utilization of wetland resources, like harvesting of the clay, the sand, and also wetland plants and animals. This leaves the area very weak to sustain itself in case of any shock like floods or drought. And also communities who have been depending on these wetlands no longer gain from them when the resources are lost or degraded. However, both countries have got wetland related policies, and among the policies I realized from this study that Uganda has got more specific policy and legal framework concerning addressing wetland degradation than Iceland. However, Iceland also has got a long experience of wetland restoration, which has taken over 100 years. Uganda policies address the issues of wetlands in form of protection from degradation. They also promote conservation and wise use of wetlands. Then they provide restrictions for utilization of wetlands. The policies and legal framework for Uganda also provide for create offices from national level to district level for wetland management. They also provide for regulations like the wetland regulations of 2000 that provide activities that are regulated in wetlands, and also other regulations like environmental impact assessment mandatory in wetlands. Then Iceland policies also provide for proper management of landscape and prohibit the disturbance of landscape, which includes wetland areas. There is also an act on climate change in Iceland that provides for restoration of degraded wetlands. And in this study, there are some field excursions which I have visited, some areas which I have visited in both South and North Iceland, and wetlands have been restored. These policies and legal framework address wetland degradation issues through regulation and monitoring, and also through direct project implementation, say like restoration projects in wetland degraded areas. Given the importance of these wetlands to communities and livelihood, therefore, there is a need for community level participation and also involvement of all other stakeholders and engagement so that we sustainably manage these wetlands. Thank you.